The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. Wealth Builders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Welcome to episode 64 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for Wealth Builders, and I'm joined today by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan.
Morning, Chris. Nice to talk to you today.
Indeed. Sun is shining. Another week ahead. So we are actually really getting into an exciting stage with our members, and it's worth just taking a second to talk about that because we launched our 7 Steps to Wealth program back in March, and it was a difficult period. It was the end of March, just as we had gone into lockdown. So just want to say a big thank you to everyone that did join the program and for the massive progress that you're all making. It's going so well. We're enjoying it, and it's really brought up an important factor which we want to focus on today, Kevin, hasn't it? Which is the importance of support and connection.
Well, support and connection are integral parts, Chris, of the overall wheel of wealth, which is one of the fundamental tenets of the whole wealth building principles. I mean, wow, it feels quite a while, Chris, since we mentioned the wheel of wealth.
Wheel of Wealth we talked about back in episode 9 of Wealth Talk, and that was in April 2019. So yes, it has been some while now.
Wow. Well, I think we need to give a reminder of the wheel of wealth. Let me do that. So if you imagine, if you're listening, there's a circle, and the circle is like a cog or a wheel or just something you can imagine that it needs to turn 360 degrees. And then when it does, it clicks. You got yourself a click. Now, what does a click mean? Well, it means when you've gone full 360, Chris, by the time you've done that, and I'll talk about the elements of the wheel in a moment, you have generated, or the intention anyway, is to generate a flow of cash coming into your life, which is then used to build your wealth. And for those who've seen our wealth chart, Chris, it builds that thermometer, doesn't it? It sees that thermometer rising as you see the recurring income coming into your life bit by bit by bit. Or the second thing you can do, which is to another part of wealth building, of course, is can generate a flow of capital, a lump sum, a nice payment for a successful project in your wealth building journey. And so that's the idea. And the wheel consists of 5 component parts, like spokes in a wheel. And the first one, which we probably talk about every single day, Chris, is education. And the second one is support. The third is connections. The fourth is due diligence. And then the fifth is the action that you take following all the guidance all the way through. Now, while that sounds very simple, guess what people do though, Chris?
Well, they might cheat the wheel.
They cheat the wheel, don't they? They get a little bit of education and go straight to action and then usually go backwards. Or they get a bit of education, they spend their time in education, and it's really, really important to get an education in wealth. It isn't something you can really DIY. It isn't something you can just drift and bump into people or bump into things and find a pathway. It's a serious business creating wealth, and some hard work put into doing it sequentially will work. So we've done enough about education over the course of the podcast, Chris, but probably what we haven't done really so much is talk about the importance of support. And of course, connected to support is the point of connected to that is connection. So the whole idea of not just feeling that you've got some guidance, but also you're making connections to other people who bring that guidance to life, who bring the education you've been learning to life. So I think we can dive into some of those points, Chris, and the importance of how to get that support. Where is that support? Obviously, there's support for those who join our programs, but we want to help everybody, don't we? So how do you get that support outside of that? And then connections, how do we make connections inside the program? And then how do you get those connections yourself if you're not part of the program? So why don't we dive into that, Chris?
Well, just before we do that, Kevin, let me read out one of our reviews, which comes from one of our members, one of our founder members, actually, Danny Wade, which I think just emphasises the point that we're talking about today. And Danny left a lovely review for us on Trustpilot this time. And Danny says, I joined WealthBuilders in October 2019, and it's been such an eye-opener. Finally, I'm in a place that enables me to make confident and informed decisions about how to proceed with building my wealth and legacy. The way the program is laid out is easily digestible, and the collaboration between the members is phenomenal. There's so much experience within the group, not only with the coaches, but with the members, that it's been easy to enhance my education and take steps forward on multiple pillars. Really enjoying it. Hands down, the best investment I've ever made. So again, summing up, the support from the coaches and the support from the community, and that just builds your self-confidence, doesn't it? And just helps you keep taking those small baby steps forwards, which we know is the key, is just consistent action moving forwards.
Yes, the whole wealth building process is about momentum. And thank you for Danny for not just, following the program, but also taking time out. Because this is the problem, isn't it, Chris, that life is busy. Life throws curveballs at us from all directions, and it's really important to take the time to do this properly. And I think it's great that Danny's done that, but we want to help anybody who is thinking about this for themselves. How would they put some of those mechanisms around themselves? And I can dive into that a little bit, Chris, and just to say that some general principles, and then we can talk about specifics. Would that be okay?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So to me, the essence of support is, I've already said, life is going to get in the way, and there are always reasons why our attention is deflected. So having some thought about support means it's focus. It's helping you keep momentum so you don't get derailed. You can be put off course a touch. We talked about a quote, didn't we, a few weeks ago, about it's the same wind that blows on us all, but it's the set of the sail that kind of makes the difference. And what a supporter is somebody that you can work with who helps you keep adjusting that sail and to help keep you on track. So while, yes, you'll get blown off, everybody gets blown off course, but the importance of doing that. And I think, to me, there are three aspects to it, Chris, that are fundamental if you're going to engage professional support. First of all, the support must be impartial. What I mean by that is whoever's supporting you, you want them to be absolutely agnostic on what it is you do. So they should not be worried about which pillar you're choosing, which pathway you're choosing. They're there to help be your guide on that path, whatever path you choose. So they don't have a vested interest in you going left or going right. And we see enough out there, Chris, don't we, of gurus or guides or mentors where actually they're inextricably linked with selling you something that they own or belongs to them, that really means they're not impartial. And that worries me a bit, but hopefully people taking good guidance can ask that question. What is in it for the supporter to make sure that they are staying impartial at all times. The second is, to me, support must be proactive. In other words, not just simply reacting to you, but to help you second guess what's going on, to ask you questions and continue to ask questions, not just now, what's happened now, because one of the important features as you create wealth, Chris, is it's a momentum thing, as you said. And as it moves, as you move, you change. And when people change, the tendency is they become smarter. And smarter people ask different questions as they turn the wheel. So the third aspect is you would want to be aligning yourself in support in some way that will help you with questions you're going to ask in the future. So in other words, a good guide or mentor will know what questions to ask that you didn't even think to ask. You see what I mean? So you're not just saying, well, how do I do this and how do I do that? Looking for someone who can ask you a better question than that. So what have you thought about this, or have you thought about that? And that's really integral to the whole principles of support. And, we love providing support, Chris, and we've got a whole structure that Wealth Builders do, but maybe we could ask you to tell us what that kind of support looks like, and then we can explain to people how they could build a support mechanism around themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And just before I run through some of the steps of support that we offer within the program, I think there's often a confusion, Kevin, between what the role of a coach is compared to maybe a consultant and then a mentor. So should we run through and just kind of clarify in our terms anyway, how we look at those different roles?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, actually, Chris, because the language of wealth, it's like, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. The question around coaching, consulting, mentoring, guiding, what does it all mean? Well, to me, and the language we use within Wealth Builders, a coach is somebody who's there simply to be supporting you, to hold you accountable. So it's to say, you said you were going to do this. Did you do it? What got in the way? Let's talk about that. So the essence of a coach is the answers lie with you, but the coach keeps you focused on the track. That's what a coach does. In our view, anyway. I know there's different language and different people use different things. We use the word consultant for where the individual, the consultant themselves, have an expertise in a specific area. So if there's a particular part of your wealth plan, a particular pillar, and a particular strategy within that pillar that needs very, very specific knowledge, very specific step-by-steps, then a consultant would guide you to the place where they bring their knowledge. So that way it's a collaboration. So the consultant has got more knowledge and they're collaborating on a specific area. And then finally, mentor. In our view, again, a mentor is someone with more holistic knowledge. Someone where it's not just talking about that one aspect that a consultant would talk about, but it's taking the holistic view of wealth. And of course, few people have a wide-ranging set of skills and knowledge and ability to impart that. But where you can find a mentor, then a mentor will get more from you because they are there. They will be impartial. They will be proactive. They will ask and answer questions for you. And that's the essence of mentorship. And we refer to mentorship and guiding in a similar light, don't we? Because it's really more, suppose, if I was to give an analogy, Chris, I'd say it's more like the sort of Dumbledore to Harry Potter or the Yoda to Luke Skywalker. It's that wisdom, and that wisdom isn't there too much out there. There's not a great deal of wisdom, and if you find somebody that you really resonate with who has that wisdom, that's important. So support is as important as education. And we all know we invest time and money in our education. That's part of life. And true of support as well. And I would regard it, wherever you get it from, as an investment. Because a good coach, consultant, or mentor should be able to guarantee the outcome for you in terms of reversing that risk, taking that risk away, so that the amount of money that you spend, they can guarantee you'll get that money back and more. If they're so confident in their ability to add that value, then they should be able to do that. So that's a rough kind of sketch, Chris, of how we look at it.
Yeah. And one of the big additions to the program this year, of course, is the introduction of our brand new wealth coaches. So we should give a shout out actually to Bronwyn Verncombe, Carol Robinson, Chris Henry, Ian Halfpenny, and Manish Kataria. And we are so delighted that the five of you have now joined to support our group through bi-monthly coaching calls. And that's actually one of the 7 different ways that we offer support, Kevin. So maybe I should just quickly run through those 7 just for people, both, in the group who perhaps be good to have a reminder, but for anyone who maybe is looking to, to really advance their wealth building skills. And this may be something of interest in the future. Mm-hmm. So the 7 areas of support that are available to all of our members. Well, the first one is always to begin at home, is to look for your spouse, your partner, family, friends, people that are close to you that you can talk to, and they can hopefully give you some wise words as well. And then secondly, we have online support. So as part of the program, Monday to Friday, We have an online ticketing system where anyone of our members can submit a question and get an answer within a few hours. Then we have our private Facebook group, which is open to all our members and a place where they can connect and obviously get answers to questions. Then we have an end of month review call with you and I, Kevin. So that's a chance for us to go through all of the education in the month and see how our members have been getting on and obviously answer any questions and help people get unstuck. And then we have monthly buddy groups. So these are something that are really important as well, because it's really moving into the connection element here, Kevin. It's small groups of our members who get together, they create a WhatsApp group, they communicate through that, and then they have a once a month call where they go through, talk about what their challenges are, try and brainstorm together using their different wealth dynamics in collaboration there to help each other. And then we've got monthly progress reports, and then we've got the bi-monthly one-to-one calls with our wealth coaches, as we've touched on there. So lots and lots of support within the program. But for someone not in the program, Kevin, there's other areas of support, and some of those may include online or certainly your spouse and partner as well.
I think it's important with spouse and partners. You touched on wealth dynamics, Chris. We know that's a great tool that we use. And, spouse and partners can help each other by understanding their different wealth dynamics. And then, as we've said it many times, you bring different forms of leverage to the table with your wealth dynamic because you've got different ways of looking at things, different ways of questioning and analyzing things. So looking at your wealth dynamics and getting a wealth dynamic done for husband and wife can often be quite revealing, to show where you collaborate well and show where sometimes maybe there's a natural tension, and that can help. But of course, there's so many online groups now, Chris, with technology. There's different groups for different, let's say, different strategies. So there'd be an online group for, something in the markets. There'll be an online group somewhere for property. There'll be an online group for business ownership or Amazon, creating membership programs. Any form of wealth building, there'll be some form of Facebook group, and just look out for the reviews they get. Join them. They're always free to join. Get a feeling for whether you resonate with the people who are leading it, whether there's good interaction within the group. So there's lots of things you can do for free. We're not suggesting you have to buy everything. I mean, there's some things that really essential. You will never get a mentor for free, but you can get Facebook support, that interaction between people where there's a particular strategy. And I suppose, Chris, there's online and offline networking opportunities, aren't there, increasingly? So you can, in an online world, there's so many different groups, and in an offline world, there's networking events, and you can attend those and see how you interact with people, and if it's your natural thing or not. And also you can build and create groups of your own if you've got a natural leadership style. So there's many ways that all of this can work, Chris, to help people get some form of network around them that shields them and makes them feel safer or more focused in a time when life is a big distractor.
And I do think it's worth us pointing out, Kevin, that whilst there are so many great free groups online, you do have to be careful as to, I guess, applying a filter to some of the information within those groups, because there's a lot of people in there giving their opinions, and we all have an opinion, right, some wrong, but you just have to be careful that not everyone in the group might be as experienced and knowledgeable, and so therefore applying a filter, and again, another step of the wheel is due diligence, is not just taking the information as gospel that it's definitely true, but always kind of do your research and make sure before you take any action.
Yeah, that's really important as well, Chris. And we certainly know that the more technical the issue, so for example, we've got an incredible support mechanism within our community in the UK in SSAS, the small self-administered scheme, the sort of director's pension, where there's incredible power, but there's also danger if you get it wrong. It's a high-performance vehicle, and if you don't have the skill, you can easily wrap yourself around a virtual tree with HMRC. And we've got an incredible Facebook group there called SSAS Alliance, and lots of people join into that. But even so, when people post questions, you get people who don't know enough giving an opinion, and we call them sound bites. And you just have to be careful not to take action based on sound bites. So again, in all worlds, particularly the more complex, the more important it is to find somebody that you trust and take time. There's no reason why you need to rush into something, and the people who are the loudest in the marketing are not necessarily the most natural fit. So but do look and look at reviews. There's so many. Well, Chris, you just mentioned Trustpilot reviews, right? So there's lots of review systems that people can see what the whoever's buying some support, what are they feeling about the group, and there's just lots of good stories around. Look out for those, and just sprinkle a little bit of seasoning on there, and recognize there's some bad things around as well. So that's why we're pleased we have our group, and we've got incredible reviews in our group, and we're delighted that we continue to get those. So if anybody's interested in the future, Chris, we should be opening up again another program around about September, something like that.
Yes, that's right. We will. And we'll obviously be letting everybody know, certainly those people who are already on the wait list for the 7 Steps to Wealth program. And if you're interested in perhaps finding out more about that program, then head on over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/7 steps to wealth. And that's the word 7, all lowercase together. So whilst we're talking about reviews, I think we've hit another milestone, Kevin, on iTunes this week, because we now have 50 5-star ratings, and we don't have any 4-star, 3-star. So let's hope we're not jinxing it here, but 50 ratings. So thank you to everyone who's been on there and given us reviews. And the latest review on iTunes is from Howard, who says, "For me, the podcast is a great accompaniment to my lockdown morning walk. I've started taking a notebook of late, as each episode is full of numerous nuggets. The key is implementing them, which I am in the process of doing with clarity. Thanks to both Kevin and Chris for putting over the methods of achieving financial freedom in a very easy to understand and simple way."
That's nice. And we are determined to do that. And he's absolutely right, isn't he? That, you've got to implement things. So that's why the wheel is so important. Yes, you spend some time in education, but unless you implement them, you take action, and you have to go through that process of, we believe actually finding the support and making great connections. So should we talk about connections, Chris?
Let's do that.
I mean, to me, the value of connections it's the most enjoyable part of the wealth building process. You heard Danny Wade mention it about the collaboration between people. So to me, what I love about wealth building is it's an enjoyable experience. It's not a DIY experience. I've mentioned that before. Very expensive words. Do it yourself. It's better to do it with others, to collaborate with others. I don't mean collaborate with your money necessarily, but to share and to be part of that sharing. And what I love about the connections is, first of all, wherever you are on your journey, somebody else is always ahead of you and somebody else is always behind you. And what we love to do in terms of the thought of connections is to help connect you to somebody who's been there and learned lessons in the pillar or the strategy that you're wishing to engage in to turn your own wheel. And they've turned wheels ahead of you. And in our community, at least, there's an open book as part of their subscription into the concept of Wealth Builders. It's that declaration of independence that says we'll share with people. And we almost have a vision of anyone who's wealth building, Chris, to have an arm stretched in front of them, reaching out to be helped, and an arm stretched behind them to reach out and help somebody else. And that's the very essence of the culture, isn't it, behind Wealth Builders?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So what I like about that then is if you can connect with someone who's ahead of you, then they've already had the education, and they can show you not the academics, but how they brought that education to life in their own wealth building way. So you can see what they've done. And then by meeting them, connecting to them in a real way, you can look at actually what needs to be done to take those nuggets and build them into something of value. And then that will help you discover, is that still the right pathway for you? So it can do two things. It can accelerate you massively if you're already on the path and you discover somebody else and go, wow, I didn't realize how how good this was, and you can follow all their lessons, not just academically, as I said, Chris, but the practical aspects, and then all the connections that they built to the team that they built around them, because that's another part of support, isn't it? So whatever strategy you're engaged in, you'll need some help along the way. If you're in property, you'll need builders, you'll need lawyers, and so on. And every strategy, there'll be somebody else in support as you move forward into action. The other aspect to that is it stops you from making mistakes. It will prevent you from going backwards. And momentum is everything. Moving forwards with the wheel, never going backwards. It's almost like, if you imagine your car's moving forward, and all of a sudden by accident, if you just stuck your car in reverse, you can imagine the noise and the gears clanking and the whole thing, and it can break the engine completely. And where we see people make mistakes, where they go from education straight to action and they bypass support or they bypass connections, and certainly there's a temptation for many to bypass the due diligence stage. We won't talk about due diligence today. Maybe we'll pick that up on another episode, Chris. But the due diligence stage, if you bypass those, there's a danger of crunching those gears, locking up, and going backwards. And my experience is when people go backwards, it kind of damages, not just like an engine would be damaged, it damages their decision making for life. So it's important, really, really important, that small steps moving forward are much better than big steps that will send you going backwards because you didn't follow the process properly. So that's what connections do. It should be faster, safer, and more enjoyable to build wealth that way than any other system I've ever seen. So that's why I'm delighted to be kind of leading the thought process here, Chris, and delighted to connect with anybody who's out there who's got something that they want to bring to help other people build their wealth faster, safer, and more enjoyable.
Yeah. And we saw the excitement last week when we announced the buddy groups to our members, and that's what prompted us to really plug in again to the importance of support and connection, not just for our members, but for every one of our listeners who is really focused on building their wealth. So hopefully that's been an enjoyable episode today and a reminder to look around you. Who's your network? Who do you have in as support at the moment? And if you feel that that's lacking or you'd like some more, then why not join our Facebook group, the Wealth Builders Community, which can be found at wealthbuilders.co.uk/Facebook.
And somebody else is out there looking to build their wealth too, so find a buddy of your own. If buddying with us doesn't work for you for whatever reason, there will be somebody else. So, where were you? What was your journey? Were you in employment and you were trying to escape that rat race to get out? Well, is there somebody else in the same position? Have you got a family member who's in a similar position? Who do you know who's on the same pathway as you? And then you can at least find that support to cut through the clutter of the daily tyranny of the routine of trading time for money and find somebody else who can at least hold you to account, and you can hold somebody else to account.
Couldn't have put it better myself, Kevin.
That's why I'm in this role, Chris.
All right, it's been good speaking to you today, Kevin, and we'll catch up with everyone again on the next episode of Wealth Talk.
Okay, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build, and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.